Hello and welcome. As opponents lined up to impeach him, Pakistan's beleaguered president Pervez Musharraf took the decisive step of resigning this week. General Musharraf was head of the army and relatively unknown outside his country when he seized power in a coup in 1999. He dominated Pakistani politics from that time until earlier this year when his foes won parliamentary elections. On Monday, he announced his resignation just days ahead of an impeachment move in Parliament. After the 9/11 attacks in the US, President Musharraf steered his country away from the Taliban and became a key strategic ally of America by supporting the so-called war on terror. In the meantime, his popularity at home sank due to runaway inflation, especially as food and fuel prices skyrocketed. After he sacked dozens of judges and imposed emergency rule last year, Pakistanis took to the streets in protest. Now that he stepped aside, the question remains, will Pakistan see further instability after Musharraf? And what does this do to the country's relations with its neighbours and the United States? Don't forget, you can join the conversation by calling us during the show. For our discussion, we have Shuja Nawaz, a prominent political and military analyst who began his career as a newscaster with Pakistan television in the late 1960s. He's the author of Cross Swords, Pakistan, Its Army and the Wars Within, which analyzes the role of the Pakistani army in the country's politics, as well as its relationship with the United States. We're also joined by Naeem Salik, a retired brigadier general in the Pakistani Army who's currently a visiting scholar at the Johns Hopkins School for Advanced International Studies here in Washington, D.C. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Nawaz, if I could start with you with a question that a lot of people are asking. If this resignation of President Musharraf is is it really a victory for the governing coalition, as many people are putting it, considering they haven't really had a chance to go after him with these impeachment proceedings?
Well, I think the true victory came at the elections in February on the 18th, when parliamentary democracy was restored to some extent within Pakistan. But then there was a standoff because President Musharraf was still there and still, even till his resignation, had tremendous powers, having effectively transmuted the parliamentary form into a presidential form. He had the powers to dismiss the Prime Minister in Parliament. I think it's a kind of a victory now in the sense that they can now proceed with whatever agenda they have, but it's also a huge challenge.
I want to put an email to you, as we had quite a few people that had written in with questions, and I'm sure we'll get some phone calls as well. But this one came from Kenya, from Yusuf Abdi Osman Wajir in Kenya. Musharraf's tenure was marked by years of misrule, dictatorship, and playing to the whims of Washington. There is no doubt his resignation will pave the way for better democracy and life in Pakistan, and this is why the entire population is celebrating. Now, in reality, I mean, even if, as you describe it, it was a victory to some degree for the governing coalition, is it really a victory for the Pakistani people? Are they going to see any major change?
Not right away, but it certainly opens the possibility of parliamentary democracy taking hold. You have to remember that since 1999, essentially, we've not had a very free democratic system. It, as I said, it had become a centrally controlled presidential form of government, and so parliamentary democracy was in name only. This will be an opportunity now for the politicians to show that they can have the noisy, raucous kind of democracy that the rest of the world talks about, but they will also need a lot of discipline to make sure that they follow through on their promises, of which there are many, but the past 5 months have indicated that they haven't yet begun to think about the real issues that the country is confronting.
Well, let me bring in Brigadier General Naeem Salik and ask if you feel there are enough new faces on the Pakistani political scene to create real change, because a lot of people are worried it's the same old suspects coming back in.
If you see, even if you see the new faces, they are from the same families. In fact, politics in Pakistan is some kind of hereditary kind of a thing. That if some person goes away, his son or nephew or daughter or somebody comes up. So these are a few families which have been dominating Pakistani politics, and they continue to do so. From that point of view, one should not expect that there will be a major change. It's the mindset actually, and I would say that it's the feudal mindset which has dominated Pakistan for a long time, which still persists, and that's the mindset which dominates the Pakistani politics and the outlook towards the running of the government.
We had an email I'd like to put to you. This came from Sri Lanka, from Mervyn De Silva, who wrote in saying, recalling the political records and the quality of governance of the coalition leaders from the time of the late Mrs. Bhutto, I'm sorry to register the opinion that I fail to see the light of authentic democracy taking root in this great nation. Now, there are those who believe that President Musharraf's departure now leaves those, in the governing coalition in a position to sort of really to have to prove themselves. How much pressure is there on them from the Pakistani people to actually prove themselves?
Actually, they are going to face a very stern test, and as you have seen the people celebrating, if you look at Pakistan's history and the mental makeup of the Pakistani people, the psyche of the people, they also get disillusioned very soon, and they have pinned very high hopes with this government, and in a very difficult environment. There are external and internal economic pressures. There is a war going on the Western Front. So all these pressures make things very difficult for the coalition to really perform and produce results. But if they don't, I think it will be a big setback for the democracy in Pakistan and future of the system of government in Pakistan.
Mr. Nawaz, I want to be able to put to you a quote from your book, Cross Swords, describing the political position of President Musharraf, Pervez Musharraf. It says, wearing both his uniform and civilian suits, he epitomized the liberal autocrat that he was espousing his own form of enlightened moderation. And I wonder, in contrast to the previous email I'd mentioned to you, this one came in from Pakistan, this email from Adnan Hussain, which touches on this idea. It says, though most people did not like what Musharraf did in the last 1 year or so, overall his 8 years have been positive for Pakistan. Pakistan got rid of Musharraf but did not gain anything out of it. What follows is going to be even worse. Now, I wonder, based on that premise, what do you think the biggest mistake the governing coalition could make now would be?
Well, the biggest mistake they could make is to break up the coalition. And because General Musharraf was the political glue that was holding them together, the signs of that fraying coalition are already evident. As today we heard that Prime Minister Sharif left the meeting of the coalition and went back to Lahore, not having left unfinished the issue of the restoration of the judiciary. So many of the promises that they've made will not be possible unless the coalition sticks together. And they need to focus on the real issues which the people are confronted with. I've just come back from 2 weeks in Pakistan, and yes, the militancy and insurgency are huge issues, and yes, President Musharraf was an issue, but the principal thing that people are concerned about is the economy and prices, and the fact that food is scarce and so is power supply. That's what people need, and they need jobs.
So actually, General, if I could ask you about the position that has been taken in terms of the impeachment proceedings, or at least the prospect of legal action against now former President Musharraf. Asif Zardari of the PPP is, he's very reluctant, it seems. What do you see as the reasoning behind this? Is it, as many speculate, that it opens the door for him to be also examined?
See, there are a couple of reasons. One was that he knows that there was an understanding and agreement which was worked out between President Musharraf and Benazir Bhutto through the good offices of the United States and the UK. And he has to actually fulfill some of those promises and agreements which were struck in that bargain. The second thing, obviously, is naturally that nobody would like to open the Pandora's box, because if you set a precedent like this, then everybody will have to face the consequences, and everybody will have to face accountability in their own times.
Of course, a big question is, Mr. Nawaz, who takes over as president? Who would be a suitable candidate?
Well, the key issue is whether the presidency remains the powerful post that President Musharraf vacated. And if they remove those, the ability to remove the Prime Minister and to dismiss Parliament, then it becomes basically the formal figurehead position which it was meant to be in the 1973 Constitution.
Are those parameters easily removed?
They could be easily removed, because certainly the coalition has the numbers to effect a change in the Constitution and to remove Article 58(2)(b) of the Constitution that allows for dismissal. Once that's removed, then it's really not critical who the president will be, except for optics. And on that score, Mr. Zardari's already talked about various kinds of candidates, including perhaps a female president.
Yeah. Let's get a call in from Saudi Arabia. Mohammed's on the line. Good to have you with us. Ask your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Sir, I want to ask, and I am very concerned about the future of Pakistan, sir.
Okay.
Because I am, you can say that middle standard and middle standard Pakistan, but I am very concerned about the future of Pakistan.
Okay.
And when you ask from our honorable brother that what will be economically and politics, what will be the future of Pakistan?
Okay. Let me ask General Salek first the prospects for Pakistan economically, because of course a lot of people came out on the streets concerned about the way the economy was going. What are the prospects the way you see them?
See, over the last few months, the major factor which contributed towards the downturn of the economy was the uncertainty, and that resulted in people shying away from investing, both foreign as well as the local investors. They did not want to invest. They held back their investments, and also the problem of obviously the rising oil prices and the rising food commodity prices in the international market. Those are extraneous factors over which Pakistan has no control. But then internally, people have not seen any concrete actions, or even the government making any real effort to change the economic situation. And particularly if the instability continues, then the prospects of economic upturn are very remote.
Gentlemen, we're going to take a very short break here. Don't go away. We'll be back with more discussion on Pakistani politics in a moment.